Hello, welcome to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald and today I'm going to show you how to make an arrangement. We're not going to use foam and so we're going to make an arrangement in chicken wire as our mechanic, but I really wanted to use this container that I found when I was at a local market. Now I just love this. It actually comes in two parts, so it could be used in 3 different ways, but this I think is really for having pot plants in, but I just think this gives a really nice style or a really nice, interesting container for us to make a design. And because this is quite earthy and quite organic, I've got some really nice hot colours that we're going to use. So we've got some sunflowers, some gerberas, some alstroemeria, some solidago, a few cannas from my garden because I think that gives a real pop. But for our mechanic, because this is terracotta and it's not been varnished or glazed on the inside, this isn't going to be waterproof on its own, so we need to find a container that will fit inside that. And I do have this old crock pot. Now the crock pot kind of died, the handle fell off it, and I had to glue it back on, but it makes a really good base for doing arrangements. I've put some chicken wire in here. I've done it in a scrunched way so that there's a couple of different levels for stems to pass through. So that'll really support your flowers well, and it also has a good depth for water as a water source. And also it's got a bit of weight, so that's just perfect. So the first flower I want to put in really is our canna. Now, as I say, I grow these in the garden, and when I lived in Scotland, you just wouldn't have been able to grow these particularly well at all. Because this is quite a strong element, we're going to put these in relatively early. And even though we're using chicken wire, the principles are just the same. We're going to start with a bit of height, and we're going to create a bit of a line with our flowers. So we're going to go tall, medium, and work our way down. So what I'm really thinking is this arrangement would look great in a hallway or a large space in a house where it's going to be able to give maximum impact. Now with the chicken wire, obviously there's a little bit of movement with the flowers. It's not quite as straightforward as with foam. You just need to find where the stem will go and how it's going to sit. So you need to be kind of aware of how you're going to make things. Now, this I couldn't resist. This is some rhipsalis, and I just think this would be really interesting in our design. And actually, when the arrangement is finished, I will plant this up and use it as cuttings, basically, for propagating my rhipsalis. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of conifer, and I know that's probably not something we would think of as very attractive, but just to go at the back and create a little bit of change with texture, I think it works fine. Now, you don't really need to stress about foliages. I think the best way to approach it is really just to use a selection. So some that are going to give you some texture, some that are going to give you some strong elements, and work it like that. So really the foliage is going to create a framework into which we can fit our flowers, which is really good. So you're just looking at really creating a first arrangement with all foliage is one way to do it, or one way to think about it, and then create a second arrangement by adding your flowers. So you could even make an arrangement that is just all foliage. That wouldn't be a problem. Now this chicken wire is not particularly beautiful in itself, but as you see, as we add materials, it starts to disappear. So the heavier flowers are probably better adding early on. And as you go, you want to remove any stems that are damaged, any pieces of damage or anything that's going to cause any problems. So like this large sunflower is quite heavy, so we can put it in quite early on. But really what I want to do before we go much further is add a little bit of height up here. So really the solidago is going to give us our height. And also a change in contrast as well. So this is really not a formal commercial sort of arrangement. This is more just the type of thing you might make at home, or you might make for something that you're actually doing yourself. So I think in some ways actually it's quite nice making arrangements and using maybe some materials that you can get from your garden along with commercial flowers. If it's just all commercial, it can look a little bit, it just has that look. And if you do all garden materials, equally it has that look as well. But combining the two, you're not quite sure whether this is a fully commercial design or something that you've actually created. It gives it a little bit more of a touch, which I think is quite interesting. So I'm just using really what I've been able to get hold of. I've got this chrysanthemum that wouldn't necessarily be my choice, but I think we can use it for bringing some colour into the actual design. Same with this one. This one has got one little broken flower, so we need to take that off. And so really our kind of heavier flowers are more towards the centre. That's going to take your eye in and just give some weight into there. Now I do have some nice alstroemeria as well, or Peruvian lily. And ultimately when you're making a design, you're going to be limited by the length of stems that your flowers have. So I don't have flowers here that are particularly long stemmed, but we can work that. You just need to go through, like if you've got 5 stems, just see which ones is the longest, which one's the straightest, which one would be perfect for putting up the top. And if there's one that's maybe broken or short, then that's maybe one that is better for bringing more to the centre of your design. And even ones like this, which has a little bit of a kink, we can use that kink to help position a flower head further out to one side, or we can use that to bring that head down, whereas when it had a straight stem, that would have been more difficult. Now, just looking to see what we have. We put this little bit of foliage at the back. Now, I did have, should maybe have put this in earlier on, but this is from one of my houseplants. I've basically put all my houseplants outside just now, and they're loving it, which is a good thing. Normally I put my houseplants outside and then they get sunburnt and they're not very happy. But this is a diffenbachia that I got given, and the person who gave me a bit of it, 2 years later, they gave me more of it because from the very same plant. Basically because it was just growing at such a rate, and there was more to cut. So, just need to give this a little wipe. Or maybe we're going to just... This one's got a little bit of damage on it, so I'm going to try and just put him in such a way that you don't really have to look at that damage. Like we can actually just, yeah, put it in, roll it under, and you're not going to see that damaged tip. With some leaves you can cut them, and that works really well as well. So just to help hold that out there, we'll use another of these alstroemeria. And got one alstroemeria left. If you find the foliage is not so good, you can just trim it off a little bit. See, this leaf is just desperate to pop out, which is annoying. I should have put this one in first. There. So, we've got our height, we've got our main flowers, our heavier flowers towards the centre. We've got these big leaves, which is giving us structure, but we've got a contrast in texture, especially using like the rhipsalis material as well. Now, just to finish off, I've got a few solidago left, and I've also got some beautiful little germinis. So we can really bring these in just to make a nice little highlight as well. So this is really a little bit of a celebration of some garden material and some flowers that you might find in a supermarket, but you can use whatever materials you have. See, just those little germinis really bring it out a little bit and add a little bit more variety, a little bit more specialness as well. But essentially what we're making here is a front-facing arrangement. So like a triangular style design that's very much a classic design style, but by using different materials you get a different feel. And this is where I think using this container with the leg on it or the stand on it is really raising our flowers up and showcasing them to their maximum effect. So essentially we've got a large display using relatively simple flowers with not too much foliage, that conifer that we might not love, but it's creating a good background for this. Everything's in water, this will be quite happy, and we've raised it up to really showcase the flowers. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, then click here to subscribe if you've not already subscribed. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much. We have a new video every week and we'd love you to join us for our next design. So until then, take care and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.